YouTube, it's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, back at y'all with another one. So, undefeated two-division world champion, currently the WBC reigning middleweight world champion, superstar boxer Jermall Lions Only Charlo. He responds to fellow middleweight undefeated two-division world champion, who is currently the WBO reigning middleweight world champion, Demetrius Boo Boo Andrade. With that said, Demetrius Andrade, he did an interview with AB Boxing News. Shout out to AB Boxing News. And Demetrius Andrade, he stated that he sent over and contacted Jermall Charlo's team because he's looking to make a fight happen, a unification bout. Obviously, the fight that everybody wants to secure is a showdown with four-division world champion, Mexican superstar boxer who is currently the unified super middleweight, 168-pound WBC, WBO, WBA Ring Magazine world champion superstar boxer Saul Canelo Alvarez. But Demetrius Andrade, he says if Jermall Charlo's not going to secure that fight, I'm not going to secure that fight, then we should face off against one another. And in the days leading up until Jermall Charlo's showdown with Montiel, Jermall Charlo is doing press conferences to build up. And Jermall Charlo was asked about it, in which he returned. He stated that Demetrius Andrade is a very horrible fighter, but he did confirm that Demetrius Andrade and his team, promoter, Matchroom CEO and promoter Eddie Hearn, they have reached out to Jermall Charlo. He confirmed that they did reach out. He says, but the numbers wasn't right. Now, we know Demetrius Andrade, he said he offered Jermall Charlo $7 million to stage the fight. We know Eddie Hearn, he stated that he offered Jermall Charlo $7 million, which is somewhat believable because we know that they paid $7 million to four-division world champion Mexican superstar boxer Mikey Garcia to face off against Jesse Vargas in a one-fight deal and a fight-off deal, okay? So I'm sure that they would offer Jermall Charlo. It just sounds like that's along the lines of the way they do business, and especially in a unification bout about this big. Now, Mikey Garcia versus Jesse Vargas is not a big fight. They were simply rendering Mikey Garcia's star power and his name. It wasn't a no belts on the line. It wasn't a unification bout. It wasn't a defense on the part of Mikey Garcia or Jesse Vargas. It was just simply a fight. And they were renting Mikey Garcia's name, and they paid Mikey Garcia $7 million for that fight. So it just makes sense that they were offered, at the very least, Jermall Charlo $7 million to stage a fight with Demetrius Andrade on the same platform in a unification bout where both guys are undefeated. You got to keep in mind, Mikey Garcia was not undefeated. He lost badly to Errol Spence Jr., and Jesse Vargas has multiple losses on his resume, and neither guy had a belt. Now you're talking about two guys that are undefeated, two guys that are two-division world champions, and two guys that have belts, and it's going to be a unification bout in the same division. So it just makes sense that they will offer $7 million. But Jermall Charlo saying that the number that they offered wasn't what more than what he's already making, so he didn't choose to take the fight. Now you could look at that two different ways. If it's on the same lines of what you're making already, he says they offered the amount of money. First he said that he didn't know how much money was offered. Then he stated that, you know, the amount of money they offered was along the same lines of the money he's already making. So he wanted to make more money than he's making right now currently to fight Demetrius Andrade, obviously because it's a unification bout. It's a mega fight, and they're looking to buy his services. Okay, so they're asking him to come out of what his comfort zone with the PBC, Premier Boxing Champions, and Showtime, to come fight and showcase his talents on the zone with Demetrius Andrade. Okay, because that's what Mikey Garcia did. So they paid Mikey Garcia $7 million to come to the zone. So I understand that Jermall Charlo is saying, okay, this is a unification bout. You asked me to come uproot myself and come over to your platform to showcase my talents, to benefit your fighter in Demetrius Andrade, because Demetrius Andrade is a Matchroom DAZN fighter. So $7 million is not enough. If you pay Mikey Garcia to come to DAZN, he didn't have a belt. His opponent didn't have a belt. And he's coming off, they both have losses on their resume. Well, then it just makes sense for me to get paid more money than $7 million. Now, I'm not sure if Jermall Charlo makes more than $7 million or along the lines of $7 million in his fight with Montiel or in his fight with Sergey Derevyanchenko. I don't know if he made more money in those fights, but I do know, $7 million is a huge number. But he's saying that, the number wasn't surpassing the number he's already currently making. Now, we do know that Jermall Charlo, he and his identical twin brother, who's a two-time junior middleweight world champion, and he's heading into an undisputed match as he's a unified champion. He's going into an undisputed match July 17th for Brian Castano. We know that the history that Demetrius Andrade was signed on 5 years ago to fight Jermall Charlo, his identical twin brother, and he pulled out the week of the fight. It left a bad taste in their mouth, and so they have a hard time doing business with Demetrius Andrade. But with that said, now Jermall Charlo is saying that it definitely can happen. He believes it will happen. He says that all these guys with belts have to fight each other. So he's saying that I have a belt, Andre has a belt, we have to fight each other. Now, obviously, he made mention of a two-time middleweight world champion who currently is the IBF middleweight world champion, Gennady Triple G Golovkin. But he has no interest in fighting either Demetrius Andrade or Jermall Charlo. He fought December, and now he's not looking to fight again until December 31st. He even has a target date against Murata, who is the WBA middleweight world champion. So he's looking for a unification bout in Asia, December 31st, New Year's Eve. So he's been out over a calendar year, and he has no interest in fighting Jermall Charlo or Demetrius Andrade. Demetrius Andrade actually got in the ring with Gennady Golovkin after Gennady Golovkin had defeated Sergey Derevyanchenko in a fight that most people thought Sergey Derevyanchenko should have gotten a nod. He got in the ring and he asked Gennady Golovkin to give him a unification bout, and he said, yeah, big drama show, and it never came to fruition, obviously. So with that said, that's off the table. He's not going to get that fight. I don't see, and if it does happen, it's not going to happen until 2022 at some point in time, because he's not looking to fight, that being Gennady Golovkin, until the end of the year, the very end of the year, New Year's Eve, December 31st. So he's not looking to fight either one of these guys at the very least till 2022. Jermall Charlo, like I said, is going to fight June 19th. He's going to fight in a few weeks. So that means he needs to get another fight in before the year's over. And Demetrius Andrade, he just recently fought as well. He fought. So it just makes sense for us to get these guys come together in unification bout. And then you could apply more pressure to Gennady Golovkin, Murata's winner, for undisputed, because that's a unification bout. The winner of that fight is going to have the IBF and the WBA, and the winner of Jermall Charlo, Demetrius Andrade, is going to have the WBC and the WBO. So then you put pressure on them to make an undisputed match early 2022. But this is a massive showdown, okay? Jermall Charlo is void of a high-profile fight. The biggest fight in his career is the Sergey Derevyanchenko fight. Now he's fighting Montiel, and this is a fight that is a lackluster fight, to say the least. A guy of the talents of Jermall Charlo, you want to see him in the biggest fights possible. Same goes for Demetrius Andrade fighting Liam Williams, okay? Nobody wants to see Demetrius Andrade fighting Liam Williams. You want to see him fighting the likes of Jermall Charlo or Gennady Golovkin, or if it's going to be a lower-level fight, Murata, for a unification bout. Those types of fights make sense, but for the most part, you don't want to see these guys fighting, lower level opposition, where for the most part we already know how it's going to play out. They're going to be the winner, the victor, okay? So now Jermall Charlo is saying that he believes it's going to happen. He was asked about fighting Canelo Alvarez. He says that if Canelo Alvarez comes back down to 160, he'll face him, or a catchweight. So he's clearing his name of that 168-pound showdown with undefeated two-time super middleweight WBC Mexican superstar boxer David Benavidez, who's been calling him out since he made mention of his name and said he would knock out David Benavidez. And everybody started to call for the fight at 168, but he says, I'm not a super middleweight. So obviously, then he stated he would go there to fight Canelo Alvarez, but he's saying now it have to be at a catchweight, or Canelo Alvarez comes down to back down to 160. So he pretty much done away with that. So it clears the path for Jermall Charlo versus Demetrius Andrade in the very next fight, because it just makes sense in a unification bout. Neither guy's getting a high-profile fight. they're fighting each other would be the biggest fight of both guys' career. Jermall Charlo is saying Demetrius Andrade is a horrible fighter. Demetrius Andrade is saying that Jermall Charlo is avoiding him. Make the fight happen. Now he's saying that Eddie Hearn needs to come up with a bigger number if he's going to stage the fight, not a number that he's already receiving. So he did confirm that they did reach out to him indeed, because there's talks that they never reached out, they never made an offer. But Jermall Charlo has now confirmed that they did indeed reach out, and they did put a number out there, and the number wasn't suffice because it was a number he's already making, and he wants to receive a bigger number. Demetrius Andrade said he's more than likely going to show up to Jermall Charlo's fight with Monteo. He's going to look to do the same thing he did with Canelo Alvarez at the end of the post-fight press conference, when he tried to, provoke Canelo Alvarez into giving him, a fight. Now he's expecting to do the same thing with Jermall Charlo. So let's see how this unfolds and plays out. I mean, the fall of 2021, October time, Demetrius Andrade, Jermall Charlo, makes sense. Make it happen. That's all I got for y'all. Make sure you hit the like button. Drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Blue Blood Sports TV. Hate, like, comment, and subscribe. If you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell icon to get all the new notifications. Follow me on Instagram at Blue Blood Sports TV, all one word. Y'all already know what it is. Shout out to the entire LDBC. Shout out to New Media. Shout out to Black Media Row. Make sure you like and share these videos. That's all I got for you. Peace.
Hi, my name is Heather the Heat Hardy, and you're watching Blue Blood Sports TV.